Mr. President, I am going to have an opening statement here, and let me just say that my good friend Senator Boxer and I, the last time we had a major bill on the floor, we were in agreement with each other having to do with the Water Resources Development Act, and prior to that, the Transportation Reauthorization. On this, we very much disagree, and she has every right to be wrong. I would like to also to mention, since she commented about the possibility that the cloture vote might be tough, I don't think it will be, because there are a lot of people who very much oppose this legislation who are going to vote for cloture, including some of the leadership on our side that is opposed to this bill. And although the vast majority of the scientists do not believe that man-made gases, and we're talking about anthropogenic gases, CO2, methane, are a major contributor to climate change, that is not a part of the debate of the Lieberman-Warner bill. And if it were, it would take a lot more time than we're going to be able to devote. So we're not going to discuss that. That's for another day. As we begin the debate today, the climate legislation, I want to make just a few points. I'd first like to discuss what we as Republicans stand for, then talk briefly about the process of how we got to the debate and how we got the debate on the floor today. Then finally discuss how we would like to see the floor debate progress over the coming days, or perhaps the coming weeks, as some believe it might be. First and foremost, we as Republicans believe any legislation that attempts to address climate change must protect American families and must protect U.S. workers, and has to maintain global fairness, and finally offer clean energy solutions. Unfortunately, this bill and the Climate Security Act of 2008, which is, my understanding, what it's called now, since this has been an amendment or a substitute that we're considering, fails on all of these counts. We believe that any climate legislation must offer clean energy solutions. Substantial investment must be made in new clean energy technologies, which would generate more energy efficiently by producing less carbon without the government picking winners and losers. It makes good business sense to produce energy more efficiently, and American companies are at the forefront of developing these new technologies. Now, we support investments in solar, wind, hydro, geothermal, and other innovative technologies, but we must be careful not to interfere in the free market system, or we might stifle new innovations. Any approach that addresses climate change must incorporate more emission-free nuclear power. We are on the verge of a nuclear renaissance in this country, and it is key to our long-term domestic energy independence. We got to address the remaining issues that hinder the construction of new nuclear plants, such as loan guarantees, waste and regulatory certainty. Senator Domenici, the greatest champion of the nuclear industry has ever had, is retiring at the end of this year, and I can think of no greater honor to him than to make his renaissance a reality, the renaissance of nuclear energy. Coal is our most abundant domestic energy source, and it must be a part of any solution. We must invest in clean coal technologies in order to increase our energy security. And while we are continuing to explore carbon capture and storage, we cannot hold the future use of coal hostage to this one technological feat. Senator Byrd has been a tireless advocate for greater use of coal, and I know Senator Voinovich and Senator Barrasso on the committee have been championing its use. We need to promote natural gas. Increasing supplies of natural gas are needed in order to compensate for fuel switching, which could harm America's industrial base and export jobs. We know that fuel switching actually is taking place right now. We have an almost limitless supply of natural gas available, and we have proven that we can develop this important resource in an environmentally friendly way. I'd like to see us build up upon Senator Warner's past work and open up more of the offshore resources, which would be absolutely necessary for us to capture this natural gas. We must seriously consider how climate legislation will impact economic competitiveness. Emissions are a global issue which should be addressed globally, not unilaterally. All major emitting countries, including developing nations, must participate in order for any U.S. program to produce meaningful reductions in atmospheric concentrations of greenhouse gases. Today, China emits more carbon dioxide than we do, and that divide is only going to grow, because 2 years ago we produced more than they did. And China, I think we know, they're increasing their number of coal-fired generating plants by 2 each week. Now, the Kyoto Treaty expires next year, and any future treaties should include the developing nations. Any action has got to provide real protections for the American economy and jobs. American jobs should not go overseas where environmental laws are less strict, emissions increase. If the United States were to act unilaterally, manufacturing facilities will go overseas. They got to go where the energy is. We know that. And that's where the energy regulations or emission regulations are more laxed. This will result in more emissions at the industrial source and more emissions in transporting the products back to the United States. Let me just repeat that. In the event that we acted unilaterally and we had a cap-and-trade system that ended up in reducing the amount of emissions of CO2, then these companies that would be the losers in this program would be merely moving to China or India or down to Mexico. And there they don't have any emission requirements. So it would actually have the effect of increasing the amount of CO2 in the atmosphere.